Today, Favero released the long-awaited update to the Assioma Uno and Assioma Duo power meter pedals that support cycling dynamics. Cycling dynamics has been around since 2014, first implemented by Garmin on their Vector pedals, and then they opened that standard in 2017 for any other power meter manufacturer to support. To date, cycling dynamics has only been on Vector pedals until now. Kind of. Now, I'll get to the kind of a little later on, but first of all, backing up to what cycling dynamics is and how it's carved up to give us some interesting information. First of all, there's two parts to cycling dynamics. First of all, the pedal phase information, which I'll pull up here on Garmin Connect. Now, you can see this data in real time on your Garmin head unit as well, but I'm just using Garmin Connect to explain what's going on. So, first of all, the pedal phase information. Moving my mouse over here, you can see the start of the pedal phase on my left pedal starts up here and finishes down there, and on the right pedal up here and down there. So it's the entire pedal phase of the 360. As part of the pedal phase, you can see peak power, the peak power phase, the PPP part of the pedal phase, which shows you where most of your power is being put down, or the top 50% of the power on that particular pedal stroke. Well, this is for the whole ride, but you know what I'm saying there. That's also a user configurable option. So 50% is by default. You can go to 20% here, and you can go down to 5% there. How that is useful, well, the school's still out, I guess, on that. But what you will see in real time from that is if you're climbing a hill and the peak power is a little higher than 90 degrees, it'll be up around here as you're pushing higher on the pedal stroke. And if you're time trialing or going down a hill, or you're really on top of the gear, that peak power phase will be down here a little lower. It's typically at about 90 degrees or so. Now, the third part from the peak pedal phase is the rider position. Now, when you're out of the saddle, the peak power will be right down here through the floor, and that's how it knows whether you're in the saddle or out of the saddle. As you can see here, in this ride, I spent 1 hour 54 in the saddle, 22 minutes out of the saddle. Quite a hilly ride for that one. So that's the power phase data that comes from Cycling Dynamics. Part 2 of the Cycling Dynamics standard is the Platform Center Offset, PCO, which I'll probably screw up and refer to as the Pedal Center Offset, because that's exactly what it is. Showing over here on the Garmin Connect website, this is data from my Vector pedals. You can see there on the left side, I was plus 1 millimeter from dead center, and on the right side for the entire ride, I was -5, so I was pressing a little inside on that pedal. So that's the data collected from the Vector 3s using the entire Cycling Dynamics standard. So the pedal phase, you can see through here, pedal phase, rider position that comes from that too, and the platform center offset. So that's Cycling Dynamics in a nutshell. And to date, these metrics have only been on Vector pedals, and now they're sort of on the Assioma pedals. Now, what do I mean by sort of? Well, Favero have only implemented the pedal phase side of things. They're not doing PCO on their implementation at this point in time. So I'd call it a half Assioma implementation of Cycling Dynamics. But what Favero have called it is the IAV Cycling Dynamics, which is in reference to their instantaneous angular velocity, which makes their power measurement super accurate, and it seems to do a pretty good job here in the Llama lab test. I see this as a slight twist on the marketing side of things, because they haven't implemented the full suite of Cycling Dynamics, and if people say, well, where's PCO? They go, well, it's IAV Cycling Dynamics, not full Cycling Dynamics. But they do, however, adhere to the standards, which is compatible with your Garmin head unit. So don't get me wrong, this is a good update. You're going to get more metrics from the current hardware that you have. The update is free, but let's call a spade a spade. It's not the full, true implementation of Cycling Dynamics. It's halfway there. To get this firmware update installed, it's very straightforward. You pull out the mobile phone app, search for your pedals, connect, and it will take you through the process, updating at the moment to 4.04. Just a word of warning, my app crashed twice. I was bouncing up from a beta version which had Cycling Dynamics implemented earlier on. Could have been part of that. I can report though that the fail safes do work well, but it did take a couple of updates to go. It should be smooth sailing now though. Next up, once you have all that installed, recording the data is the next thing you'll need to look at. Now, this can only be recorded at this point in time by compatible Garmin head units, which is pretty much all the latest Edge units. It is an open standard, so we hope to see other hardware manufacturers for bicycle computers implement this in the near future to record this data. So now you have the Cycling Dynamics data, or half the Cycling Dynamics data, saved in your fit files. Garmin Connect is pretty much the best place to view what's going on. This isn't a metric that you see in Strava at this point in time. So one of my rides here back in May, this is the 30-kilometer hilly ride around Ballarat. Scrolling down, you can see their position is recorded, so you can see when I'm in the saddle and out of the saddle. Is that a useful metric? Well, I know when I'm out of the saddle. I can feel the pressure on the saddle or not there. It's pretty easy to determine. Left-right balance is always in play. PCO is 0. This is with the Assioma implementation of cycling dynamics, or the IAV cycling dynamics. Pedal phase information here, so where I'm starting to press on the pedals and pull down. So I think that would be a hill right here. Again, the power phase is starting a little higher, coming down through the pedal stroke. But it's kind of hard to tell with even 30 kilometers of information. So diving down here and dropping it into, say, my top 5-minute effort here. It'll change that, 51.49, that's not too bad on the balance, or to the top 20 minutes, which doesn't change oh, there you go, 50-50 for 20 minutes. Hallelujah, happy days. And you can see information from there. Scrolling back up, you can have a look at the power phase through my peak 20 minutes. This might be interesting for a time trial or a big, long, steady state effort indoors to keep an eye on, but I'm not quite sure what to do with this data just yet. So more on that, future applications for this data. Look, I'm sure there's a few people who are going to say this data is useless, it's too much, who cares? But I don't think we've given it enough of a chance to know whether it's going to be useful or not. It's been tucked away in the Garmin ecosystem for a while. It's now slowly creeping out. We have it on the Vivero Assiomas. Hopefully we see it implemented on the Element, Element Bolt, Element Roam and other head units so we can keep collecting that data and be able to review that with things like Strava and other software. I think the power phase data is interesting. That's the 360 of where things are being pushed down on the pedal as it's moving around. But I really think the PCO is where things are really interesting. If you're a bike fitter and people are coming in with hot foot or pressure points on one side and they don't quite know the answer, this may be a tool that gives you some more information about what's going on. Maybe at the end of a ride or end of a 4-hour ride on an Ironman, you're getting a bit wonky on the pedals. It might be a metric you could look at just to keep more efficient. Again, it's all guesswork here from me at the moment. We don't really know because we haven't had access to this information. However, we do have to remember the IAV cycling dynamics isn't implementing the PCO stuff, so on that one for now. So thinking outside the square or outside the circle, so to speak, when it comes to the pedal phase, virtual software. We could easily implement things such as standing up and sitting down on our virtual avatar as we stand up and sit down. And the next step from that would be to change your aerodynamics based on that, because when you're standing up, you are less aero. So something to think about for the software developers out there on these virtual software worlds. Now, I'm talking technology that was around from 2014, opened in 2017. So we're a few years down the track now. So it's about this integration of the current tech that we have so we know whether it's useful or not. Because at the moment, it's a bit of an unknown. Anyway, there we go. If you're a Vivero Assioma user, jump in, do the updates. The new pedals are shipping with this firmware anyway. So get configuring and away you go. Alrighty, thanks for watching.